Hi and welcome to a new lesson. In this lesson we're going to talk about expressions, and expressions can be a little tricky and a little difficult to understand, but I'm going to try to ease it down. So expressions are basically coding that can save a lot of time on animation. For example, we can create a code for the movement and we don't have to manually animate some object, but the expression will do it by itself. Now, don't get scared. You don't have to be a programmer, you don't have to be an expert on coding to work with this, because the software helps you a lot. And on internet you can find any kind of expressions to do certain things, so that's no problem at all. What I'm going to teach you is how to create those expressions and a simple guide to create some nice expressions. For example, a wiggle effect on an object or a looping effect, which is of course really helpful when we are creating an animation. So to create an expression, let's grab first this shape layer, and you can see that we have all the transform attributes. And for example, if I want to create an expression on a certain property like the position, all I have to do is to bring this attribute, and I'm going to click on the stopwatch, but not just click on it, but I'm going to press the Alt key on my keyboard and hit the position stopwatch. Now you can see that these numbers turn red, and this means that an expression is going on. Right now you can see that it created an expression on position, and it says transform position. Actually, you can type anything you want in here. You can type any code that you want in here, and it will apply to the object. Now I want this object to move, to have some wiggle to it. So to do that, we're going to click on this button right here, the expression language menu, which has a long number of coding. You can see how the codes are made. You have global, you have vector math, you have random numbers, and a lot of things that are probably difficult to understand if you don't know coding, but as you can see, you just have to click on any one of them to apply them. So in this time we're going to property, and we're going to look for wiggle, and you can see that wiggle is right here. So you can see that it has wiggle, and you can see frequency, amount, octaves, and many other things. So I'm going to click on it, and you can see that when I clicked on it, it pasted the coding into this text bar. So that helps a lot because you don't have to manually input it. Of course, you could input manually the coding if it's not too long, but well, you have this option as well. So for the wiggle, I'm going to use only the frequency and the amount. So for the frequency is the times that per second that the object is going to move, and the amount is of course the amount of movement that it's going to have. So for example, I want this object to move 3 times per second, and I want to move 100 pixels. You can see that we are working on position and we're working on pixels on the position here, and I want him to move on an area of 100 pixels 3 times. So to enter this coding, just click outside, and it's now applied. So if I hit play, you can see that the object is moving randomly, and it will never stop. It's wiggling 3 times per second on an area of 100 pixels. Of course, I can change this anytime. Maybe I want this to move 15 times per second, and it's going to move a lot faster. Maybe I want it to move in 500 pixels, so the area will be much bigger. Maybe I want this to move 1 time per second in a 200 pixels area, and it's going to be smoother. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be on the position only. For example, we can create an expression of the scale and select also the wiggle, and let's type that it moves 2 times on 50. So when we hit play, you can see that it's scaling back to 50% 2 times in a second. So it looks really crazy, but it's working. So this could be used, for example, if we want some maybe snow falling and we don't want to animate all the snow going to the left or to the right, but we want our certain random movement. You can just type wiggle to them, to these snow cones, and it's going to look really nice. So it's a nice effect. And as you can see, you don't have to be an expert on coding to create some expressions. Of course, it would help a lot if you know programming, because you can create any kind of coding here, but you can work yourself out with this single expression that the same program is going to give you. So I'm going to delete these expressions, and to delete them you just have to again I'll click on them, and you can see that I no longer have any expressions. So I'm going to create now a looping effect for these two squares. So I'm going to take one here and one to the bottom, and I'm going to create an animation on position. I'm going to click here to create a keyframe, and here I'm going to create on the first second, I'm going to create another keyframe. This one goes to the bottom and this one goes to the top. So they're going to be like this. Now I'm going to copy this first keyframe into this second, and the same goes for this one. So we're going down and up. Alright, and I want to create a looping effect of this, so that I don't have to manually create 100 keyframes until the time stops. I want this to create a looping effect so that I don't have to do it manually, because it will save a lot of time. So I'm going to take these two shapes and I'm going to pre-compose them. Let's call them squares. Now double click on this and let's change the time to 2 seconds. Trim the comp. Perfect. And now let's create a new composition with the same settings, and now drag your new composition, the squares composition, into it. You can see that this composition lasts for 20 seconds, as our squares composition just lasts for 2 seconds. So click on them and go to layer, time, enable time remapping. As I told you before, it will create 2 keyframes here, one at the beginning and one at the end. So what we need to do is the following: go to the final keyframe and go back 1 frame by pressing Ctrl and the left arrow. Go back and you will create a new keyframe. Now select your last keyframe and double click on it, type 0 here, click OK, and remove this keyframe. Now you have 2 keyframes, one at the almost at the end of it. So now you're going to click on the time remap with the Alt button so that you create an expression. You can see that it changed to red, which means that it now has an expression. Now here on this expression language menu, you will go to property, and you are going to look for loop out. Loop out, you can see that you have loop out duration. Just grab the loop out here, it will create a code, and now of course you hit play here, it will end up here. But if you drag your layer to the end, when you hit play, you can see that we created a looping effect that will last for as long as we want. If we have a composition which is 3 minutes long, this will go on for the 3 minutes without having to animate all of the 3 minutes. Just created a looping effect. So you can see that it's really easy, and we just work with the expression. So as I said before, the expression can be a little tricky if you don't know programming, but it helps a lot that you can just click on them and don't have to type anything at all. So that's it for this lesson. Let's go to the next one.